Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another Modern Horizons, Modern Horizons 2 Draft League. Now, I did just draft Reanimator. I don't know that I want to draft Reanimator again, but Graceful Restoration I think is the most powerful of our uncommons and rares. The alternative is Affinity, which I've drafted a ton of, with Filigree Attendant. I could try and just, pick a Mouser and try and play the red-white aggro deck, which I think is probably the most straightforward. It also might let us go into, green-white proliferate, I think. But Restoration is really powerful, though. I'm going to take the Mouser. This is one of my favorite cards to play in Limited in this format. Okay, another Filigree Attendant. There's a Goblin Bombardment. If I take Goblin Bombardment, we can go red-white. This is a really powerful card to put in the modular deck, because it's a fantastic sack outlet. There's also an arcbound prototype. Okay, I'm going to take Goblin Bombardment. I'm going to see if I can't stick strictly to red-white and not splash blue. I've not actually, I think, ever drafted only the red-white deck. Alternatively, we could take Eve and try and play the Storm deck. That might be fun. I see a bunch of green cards in this pack. What would I be missing to take Eve? Rustvale Bridge? That could matter. Blossoming Calm's not that great. Extruder is pretty good. I think we're going to stick to the primary game plan, and I'm going to take Extruder. It's another good sack outlet. I did pass 2 Arcbound prototypes, though, so people might think that the red-white deck is open. Well, it probably is, but it might encourage other people to get into that archetype, and we might get punished for passing those cards. Though I would hope, with passing a rare and 2 good uncommons in that pack, they would pick those colors rather than the color we're trying to play. Okay, so we can take Ornithopter of Paradise. We can take Filigree Attendant. I've passed 2 of these already. We could take Fey Offering. Resurgent Belief is not really playable, at least not in Limited to the best of my knowledge. Break Ties or Ornithopter of Paradise I think are the cards for us. And I kind of like Break Ties a little bit more. The Reinforce in the modular deck is nice, and having a main deck Naturalize has been pretty much fantastic every single time I've played this format. Okay, Solitary Confinement. Yeah, it's not worth anything. Okay, so for us, we can take Smell Fear, because if we get a bunch of the white creatures with 1/1 counters, Smell Fear becomes pretty fantastic. It's not an unreasonable card to splash, either. I'd be passing on Glinting Creeper, but that's only good in the 5-color deck. Or if we get a whole bunch of artifact lands. Yeah, Biting Grace. This card was some pretty insane value the last time we played against it. I'd be passing on Knighted Mirror, which is one of the better white cards to put 1/1 counters onto. Because if you can do it repeatedly, you can get a whole bunch of really good value. I think we still take the uncommon here. Arcbound Prototype. Thraben Watcher is good, but we need a lot of these modular creatures, so I think I have to pass it. Karth the Lion. People have been finding out that this does a lot of fun things to Planeswalkers. Like you can alt Lily on 5, if you don't mind losing her, things like that. Yeah, I'm going to take the Prototype. Another Prototype versus a Slasher. Now, the Slasher is strong, but I think I would rather have the cheaper artifact creatures, because it's going to make our deck more consistent. And we don't know if we're playing red or green or both yet, I think, so taking the Prototype is better. Yeah, we'll take the Prototype. Another Prototype, or a Mishra's Factory. Mishra's Factory is a fun thing to modular onto, but I'm going to take the Prototype. 4th Prototype. The Prototype's looking more like the mass-produced model right now. I'm missing a blacksmith skill to do this, but yeah, we'll take the Prototype. I will take Daggertooth because I don't think Galvanic Relay is playable in our deck, and I don't think Blossoming Calm is playable at all. Blossoming Calm is playable at all. Flourishing Strike is a pretty excellent combat trick. So we could be white-green and then splash red for Bombardment to have a great sack outlet. I guess I'll take Confinement, because like I said, I'm not playing Relay. I'm not playing either of those cards. I guess of these, I'm more likely to play So Shiny. And Fairgrounds Patrol, we could actually play. Is Glimpse worth anything? It is actually... I think the foil is the only thing worth anything. I don't think it's actually worth anything. The Underworld Cookbook is nice, but we're not really playing anything with affinity. I guess it synergizes with Extruder. The other option is Captured by Legox, which is pretty fantastic, putting a bunch of 1/1 counters on our guys, as well as arresting a creature. I think we take this over the Cookbook. Yeah, we're taking the arrest, or the pacifism. Okay, I like Blacksmith Skill, I like Unholy Hate, I like Tormod's Crypt Keeper, and Sanctuary Raptor is not bad either. So the question is, would I rather protect my guys and have a combat trick, or splash an off-color-ish burn spell? I think I take the skill. Yeah, let's take the skill. Okay, we've got Sanctifier and Vec. I think this card's actually worth money, or it was. It is worth a couple of tickets, and it can be playable in this deck. The alternative is we take the Bannerhide Krushok. So I can take this if I plan on playing it in Constructed, which I probably will. I would not mind getting 1 or 2 of these Bannerhides, though. Okay, Ravenous Squirrel is partially off-color, but only if we activate its ability. We can still play it in this because it is a green 1-drop. I'm missing out on a Rustvale Bridge, which would help me splash Goblin Bombardment, a Flourishing Strike, which is a fantastic combat trick. And that's about it, actually. I think I will take the Squirrel. If we can get randomly like a green-black land to maybe activate it, it's pretty good. Another Squirrel. I've got a feeling we're going to be doing a lot of sacrificing shenanigans. I don't think we need the Underworld Cookbook. And Fey Offering is kind of nice. I'm going to take the Squirrel. Smell Fear is amazing here. The Fight spell and Proliferate. Like, this is just going to be a permanent Anthem and a kill spell at the same time. Like, the value here is just too good to pass. Okay. In this pack, there's a third... there are so many Underworld Cookbooks going around. This gives us a repeatable artifact generation engine if we want to sack it to the Squirrels. Alternatively, we can take the Rift Sower to have fixing. Or we can take a second Break Ties. Or we can take a Knighted Mirror. I think we take the Knighted Mirror. Okay, I like Tormod's Crypt Keeper. Actually, hang on. Enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it has trample. Alright, we're taking the Dusk Shell Crawler. Okay, our initial pack came around. We're taking Flourishing Strike. So our plan is to be a very consistent, hard-hitting aggro deck. We almost have a full deck of 23 cards, and we're not even all the way through pack 2. Like, there are some cards that we can upgrade. Like, I don't know if Sanctifier Envec is actually playable in the main deck. We would not be playing Nested Shambler. I would, however, take Sanctuary Raptor. Power Depot is good with Extruder, but that's about it. I think I'll take a second Urban Daggertooth. We may not need a Biting Grace. Glimmerbairn, or a third Flourishing Strike. I don't think we take the Jade Avenger. I'll take another Flourishing Strike, because if my opponent's playing a deck that just has an unreasonable amount of flyers, I'll just kill them all with it. We're probably never entwining Flourishing Strike, but the cool thing about Flourishing Strike is this card is playable in the main deck as a plummet effect, which generally, like, in Sealed you want to play 1, but in most limited formats you don't want to play in the main deck. I'll take a Draykeeper. If we're splashing black, there's a chance we could play it. Glimmer Baron in the sideboard. But this is also just a combat trick. Like, you can Giant Growth for 2 mana, which is pretty powerful in most green decks. But the fact that this card is never dead as long as you have a creature is fantastic. And, like, late game, it can still be a Giant Growth and kill an opponent's creature, which is a huge, huge swing in your advantage. Alter the Goyf I'll put in the side. Alright, let's hope for a great pack 3, because we're already in a fantastic place. Okay, so we can take Barbed Spike, which is just an equipment that also makes a Thopter, which is a thing we can Arcbound prototype onto. There is an Academy Manufacturer, although I don't think we have anything that makes tokens, or makes a lot of them if it does. I don't think we have anything that makes food at all, because we didn't take any of those 1,000,000 Underworld cookbooks. Rustvale Bridge helps us splash Goblin Bombardment, but at this point we may not even need that, and we may not even need the land to splash it. I do like Academy Manufacturer. There's potential for pretty huge upside with this. Because, like, if we make treasures or anything, we... Oh, yeah, I should have probably taken one of the cookbooks. I think it's better than Barbed Spike, so I'm going to take it. It is also another artifact creature, so, like, in the worst case scenario, we just modular onto it. So there's a Prismatic Ending. There's also a Captured by Lagax, which I think on average is going to be better than Prismatic Ending. But Prismatic Ending can exile up to a CMC 2 permanent, 3 if we end up splashing, and I could take Ornithopter of Paradise to help splash. I'm going to take the Arrest, I think. I think that's on average better in this deck. Another Mouser is great. I'm passing up a Smell Fear for it, but I think I just want another modular creature. Okay, Nervinal's Disc. There's an Arcbound Slasher, but we don't know if we're even playing red. I think we just take the Crack Open here. Because, like, we have an Abiding... or not an Abiding Grace, a Break Ties in the main deck. And, yeah, I'll take a Crack Open. This might even be main deckable. Herd Baloth. Whenever one or more 1/1 counters are put on Herd Baloth, you may create a 4/4 green beast token. That seems like a fantastic top-end card for us. We can't modular onto it, but we do have Abiding Grace, two Captured by Lagax, and Extruder can put 1/1 counters on non-artifact creatures. So, fantastic payoff. We'll take it. I kind of like the we need mostly white mana early and then green mana late situation as well. And if I cut Sanctifier and Vec into, like, the sideboard, I'll basically never need double green. Okay, Arcbound Shikari. If we end up splashing Goblin Bombardment, this card is another great one to splash. I don't know if I want a 5th Arcbound prototype. It's possible that I do, but I think I'm just going to take the Shikari, just in case. Abundant Harvest, another Blacksmith skill, a Knighted Mirror, or a Barbed Spike. I could also take Fodder Tosser as a way to have reach. I have a ton of creatures, I have a ton of great non-creatures. I'm not really looking to suit anything up with equipment, and I don't really need to play another 2-mana Thopter, so I actually think I am going to take the Fodder Tosser, because if my opponent has just, like, an unbreakable defense, we can play that and shoot them to death. I'm going to take Vectis Gloves with a similar knowledge of if my opponent's playing artifact lands, we can just kill them with that. Foundry Helix is great if we're splashing, but I think I'm going to take Mere Scrappling for the 1/1 counter synergy. This is another thing that can put 1/1 counters on Herd Baloth. And I'm pretty convinced I'm actually not going to be splashing red. Sojourner's Companion, the affinity for artifacts is nice, but we have no artifact lands. So I think I'm just going to take Dusk Shell Crawler. Search the Premises I don't think is playable in any format. So you could argue some formats, but I would argue that's not the case. Smell Fear came all the way around. We have plenty of creatures. We have 21 creatures. We'll have our pick. We don't need another Knighted Mirror. Arcbound Slasher. Sure, we can put it in the sideboard. You know what? I'll take another Solitary Confinement. Flame Rift to the side. So I think we're going to have to put a Swamp or two in the deck if we're going to play these Ravenous Squirrels. We have a couple of other random things that sacrifice, so this just gets bigger by virtue of itself, but, like... Oh gosh, Zurin Orb. We could sack all our lands and make really big squirrels, but... it strikes me as a little bit unnecessary. I'm going to be playing Crack Open in the main deck. I think I'm only going to play one Flourishing Strike. Smell Fear is amazing because look at all these cards that have 1/1 counters on them. I think Knighted Mirror is actually... I guess, like, it's still good. It might be better than Sanctuary Raptor. Academy Manufacturer strikes me as very Winmore. Yeah. I am going to play Abiding Grace because we have 5 1-drops that are fantastic, and this can just gain us life otherwise if it's not doing anything. Although maybe I should sideboard it for the slower deck matchup. I do need to drop 2 cards. It might be Crack Open. Crack Open is great, but if we're not playing the Academy Manufacturer, we already have a Naturalize in the deck, and I need to cut 1 card. And this deck feels very solid and very consistent. just because of the number of duplicate cards we have that all synergize. Plus, we have like the ultimate late game value of just getting an infinite number of 4/4s, one every turn, off of Scrappling, Abiding Grace, Herd Baloth, which I like. Maybe we don't play a second Squirrel. Maybe we only play one. I could cut a prototype, but I really like having multiple. Like, I really like having multiple. I took no fixing to get this deck, so I guess maybe we do drop a Squirrel. It's strong, but 7, 8, and 1. We only have double green. I think I'm okay with this. I think we've got a good deck. Hopefully this carries through and we'll see it in action. I'll see you guys in round 1. Alright, we're on the play. We have a Smell Fear and a Captured by Legox. This hand's a little slow, but at the same time, in theory, we're drawing a bunch of 1 and 2 drops, so I think I'm okay keeping this. Lead on a forest, pass the turn. Opponent starts tap land. We draw a Duskshell Crawler, which is kind of what I was hoping for. So we put a counter on Duskshell Crawler. It's a 1/4. Pass the turn. Opponent plays an island, then passes. We draw another Urban Daggertooth. Play a forest. Does support count? I thought support had to go on to the lowest cost creature, or the lowest toughness creature. No, that's the keyword or mechanic that's on Anafenza, I think. Attack for 1. Opponent goes to 19, pass the turn. So next turn we're planning on playing an Urban Daggertooth, and then we're going to follow up with Smell Fear. Or not Smell Fear, but Captured by Legox. Bone Shredder, that is annoying. We draw a Mouser. Play Daggertooth. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Do they pay the Echo cost? They do. They play a tap land. They attack us for 1. We untap and draw Plains. Play a Plains. Play the Mouser. Let's go ahead and capture this creature. 1/1 counter on our guys. Go to combat. Hit him for 5. And Urban Daggertooth has Vigilance. Card's even better than I thought it was. Opponent plays a Sword of Hearth and Home, which explains why they wanted that. So they can flicker their guy and get a basic land to kill Urban Daggertooth. That's pretty good. Okay. We untap and draw a forest. Play a forest. Play Daggertooth. Smell Fear. Proliferate. Then Proliferate. Go to combat. Hit them for 4. Now they no longer have a Bone Shredder to be flickering. But we're kind of out of action, and they still have 5 cards in hand. They play Prophetic Titan. They're going to kill the Mouser. That's bad. Now we're top decking dead. I'm not going to swing into that. Actually, I should have, because they're going to just Hearth and Home it, and we're going to die. Alright, yep. Suit it up. I think our hand was pretty fantastic, but our opponent has protection from deck and on a mythic. So, like, we're just screwed. Yeah, no, I think Sword of Hearth and Home generally beats the colors it gives protection against. At least hopefully we can naturalize that. But it plays a Thought Monitor, they draw extra cards. Now they have something to equip to. Well, they just equip to that. Okay. Yep, let's go ahead and go on to the next game. Okay, so we definitely need Crack Open. We probably want a Flourishing Strike as well. The question is, what are we getting rid of? I think I'm going to drop the Squirrel, which means I'm going to drop the Swamp. And I'm going to cut Abiding Grace. Alright, run it back. I'm bringing in Flourishing Strike because my opponent has some pretty decent flyers, so we want to be able to kill those pretty quickly. I would like to play first. I can play Mouser, but nothing else. Alright. We'll keep putting back a plane. No, putting back a forest, because we have double. Start Mouser. Pass to our opponent. Opponent starts tap land, we draw Daggertooth. Play the Crawler, counter on Mouser. Go to combat, hit our opponent for 2, gain 2. Opponent goes to 18, we go to 22. Opponent plays an island, we untap. Draw planes, play planes, go to combat. Hit them for 2. They may be basic land cycling Mental Journey. Okay, pass the turn. Opponent plays another tap land. We untap. We draw Blacksmith skill, which I am tempted to hold up this turn. Go to combat. Attack for 2. Hit our opponent to 14. Play the Daggertooth. I think while my opponent doesn't have any blockers, we need to be building the board. They have a counterspell? Unfortunate. Opponent plays a Chrome Courier, revealing Imperial Recruiter and Step Through. They drop Step Through. Okay, we untap. We draw an Extruder. Play planes. Play Extruder. Go to combat. Attack for 2 with Trample. Pass the turn. We do have a Blacksmith skill, so if my opponent does have removal this turn, we can protect ourselves. We can also sack the Mouser if we want to put counters on Extruder and swing with a big Trampler. It also gets around Sword of Hearth and Home's protection, though there's no reason to go tall yet. I do wish we had a separate artifact to sacrifice to Extruder, because that way it would have Trample, and we wouldn't have to give up our guy. Actually, maybe I do need to go tall to keep getting around the blockers. I guess it kind of depends on what I'm drawing. Opponent plays an Ethereum Spinner. Then they attack us for 1. This is fine. Take 1, go to 27, untap. Pay the Echo cost. We draw a forest, so play a forest. Go to combat. Attack, attack. No blocks for the opponent. They take 6 and go to 6. We pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a forest. They're going to play Prophetic Titan. They make a Thopter. They're probably going to try and shoot the Extruder. They're going to try and kill Barkshell Crawler. Okay. Well, I think we need it for the trample, so we're going to protect it. Alright. We untap. We draw planes, which was the last thing we needed to draw. So go to combat. Attack and attack. But it blocks with everything. I can put 3 counters here, but then it just trades. Let me read this ability. Sack an artifact, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. So target, sack, modular. Trample 1 over the top, kill their whole board. I guess maybe I should have put a counter on Duskshell Crawler. The 1 damage didn't matter as much there, because now my opponent still has action. I guess I should have waited, but my opponent having a Prophetic Titan and still a bunch of cards in hand is pretty scary. But it plays an Imperial Recruiter. Opponent plays a Thought Monitor. Gets a Thopter. We untap. We draw a Flourishing Strike. So I guess we pass. We're at 30 life, so there's no rush. If we can get a couple of 1/1 counters on that Duskshell, then we can maybe surprise enough damage through. Opponent plays a tap land. They go to combat. They attack for a lot. No blocks. Take 6. And opponent passes. We untap. I'd like to not draw lands, thank you. Pass the turn. Opponent is casting a big instant. It's Mental Journey. That's pretty bad for us. Opponent untaps and draws. Plays an island. That makes it harder to win. Not impossible, but a lot harder. Opponent swings out. We go to 16, untap. And that would have killed our opponent. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. So if we can draw an arcbound anything, we might be able to kill our opponent. And we're dead. Well, that's pretty annoying. I don't think we should have lost that hard. Sword of Hearth and Home was just a severe beating after we had an insane hand. And game 2, we only drew lands. So, alright, well, see you guys in round 2. Alright, round 2, we're on the draw. If we draw a land, this hand is good, but I don't think we can bank on that. Oh gosh, okay, well, down to 5, and it's awful. I don't think I can go any lower than this. We'll put back a swamp, and we'll put back a plains. Opponent leads on a swamp, we draw extruder. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a clattering auger, loses a life. We draw plains. Now we're starting to get on our way there. Would like to draw a forest. Or 2. Right in a row would be great. Opponent bone shards, sacking clattering auger to kill the prototype. We draw a forest, pass the turn. Play extruder. Opponent has a counter spell. Okay, that's annoying. I was really hoping that would resolve, because then we would have a way to put 1/1 counters on this Herd Baloth. As it stands now, I think we need to draw the mirror. Alright. We have no way to put 1/1 counters on it, but our opponent doesn't know that. They pick up Clattering Auger. We resolve the Baloth. They play the Auger, losing a life. They play an island. Oh, gosh. Okay, well, I'm kind of seeing a flaw in my initial plan. Although, that would have been great if that Baloth had survived. So, this deck is really great and synergistic. The problem is we have no way to recover, and if our opponent just leads on 3 kill spells, which both of our opponents have, we're just done. That sucks, because, like, if we get off the ground and just play, like, 3 permanents, we're gonna win. Because then kill spells don't matter. Opponent plays a Raving Visionary. We draw a prototype, so play it. I think I do have to proliferate. We're going to kill the Visionary. It's more likely that my opponent... It's more likely that my opponent is able to buy creatures back from the grave than they are to flicker them. Unless this guy has Sword of Hearth and Home as well. That sucks. Alright, take 1. Untap. We draw a Biding Grace, which we will play. We have no 1-drops to reanimate, though. But it will at least offset a little bit of the damage. They hit us for 6. I would really like to draw that Arcbound Mouser. Opponent basic land cycles a Mental Journey, getting a swamp. They play a swamp into an Aeromoeba. We draw plains, play plains, pass the turn, gain a life. Opponent untaps. They're going to hit us for 10, I think. No, they don't even flip the power and toughness. Okay. They play another Aeromoeba. And we draw nothing. I mean, we also mulliganed a lot, but still. Definitely want Flourishing Strike for this versus this opponent. I don't know if it's better than Smell Fear. Do I want Crack Open? I don't think I want Crack Open. I may not need Break Ties. Abiding Grace also seems... Actually, Abiding Grace seems kind of decent versus this opponent. They have a lot of hard removal, though. What am I taking out for Flourishing Strike? If I take out Break Ties, I know I'm going to regret it. So I guess let's take out Abiding Grace and the Squirrel. I don't think we're going to be sacking any of our own stuff. Of course, now I am only playing 14 creatures. Maybe I should be playing Sanctifier Envac here. I think that was a mistake. Alright. We'll play first. This is good. We'll keep. At least we can go Arcbound Creature into Arcbound Creature into possibly Arcbound Creature Mirror. Or Mirror Duskshell Crawler. Opponent plays an island. We untap. We draw another Mouser. Play the Prototype. Go to combat. Hit them for 1. Gain a life. They lose a life. They play an island, they pass. We draw a forest, so play a forest. Play Duskshell Crawler. Counter on the Mouser. Play the Scrapling. They're going to counterspell the Scrapling, okay? Go to combat. Hit them for 4. They go to 15, they untap, they play a swamp, we untap, we draw a Smell Fear, play a Mouser, go to combat, attack for 4, opponent takes 4 and goes to 11, pass the turn. This way if we draw a land, we can fight with this Arcbound Prototype that can't attack. Opponent is going to Flay Essence. We have no way to sack it, which is unfortunate. Okay. Opponent passes, we untap, we draw a Daggertooth. Play another Prototype. Go to combat. Hit them for 3. They go to 10. They untap, and they scoop. Alright. Well, when we're playing 2 creatures every turn, we should win. In theory. I think I am going to bring in Sanctifier Envac. And it might be better than a Daggertooth, just because our opponent doesn't have a ton of stuff. This just has protection from their removal. And some of their guys that can block, presumably. I'm going to drop a Flourishing Strike for that. It's going to be hard to cast, but hopefully it's good. I didn't bring in Vectis Gloves last game. Alright, I've got to keep this. I can't be mulliganing so much. Okay, second Prototype is nice. Play a Plains, pass the turn. Should have brought in Vectis Gloves versus this opponent too, I think. Opponent plays an island, so they're representing Counterspell. Play a forest, play a Prototype, pass the turn. Opponent plays a swamp, passes. We draw a Mouser, play a Plains, go to combat, attack for 2. Opponent takes 2. Play the Mouser, play the Prototype, pass the turn. Opponent plays Dihada's Ploy. So they draw 2 cards and discard an island, gaining them 1 life. They untap, they play a land. Then they play an Aeromoeba. We untap and draw a Duskshell Crawler. So play a forest. Play a Duskshell Crawler. Put a counter on the Prototype. Then we Smell Fear, have the Prototype fight the Aeromoeba by first antheming all our guys. They're going to discard a card to flip-flop, so they kill it. We're going to move the counters over to the Mouser. If they have a Flay Essence after this, it's pretty bad. Modular here. Go to combat, hit them for 9. We gain a bunch of life. Yeah, if they have a Flay Essence here and they can kill this Arcbound Mouser, it's actually this enormous swing against us. Hopefully they don't. 5 mana, they Lucid Dreams to draw 3 cards. We untap, draw Sanctifier, Envec. We just Smell Fear, Proliferate, and win. Play the Scrappling. That should be lethal. Yep. Awesome. That's how we wanted it to go. I'll see you guys in round 3. Q's having trouble firing. Alright. This hand's awful once again. A single land gets us someplace. We have 2 draws to find it, but if it's not green, we're going to be in trouble. Maybe I should be keeping this? Because, like, our mulligans have been terrible. I'm going to try keeping this. Alright, we're against a green deck. That's suspending a Rift Sower. Okay, we drew a Plains. Thank God. Pass the turn. Rift Sower, taken down. Opponent plays a Mountain. They suspend a Gargadon. We draw Captured by Legox, which is an answer to Gargadon at least. Provided, of course, we do draw green mana, which we really desperately need. So Rift Sower coming off Suspend. They play a land, then pass. We untap. Draw Forest. Play a Forest, and I think we fight. Hopefully they don't have removal. I mean, if they do, we can modular, but I guess as long as they don't have 2 pieces of removal at instant speed, that would be a pretty big blowout, but there'd be nothing we can do about that. So opponent is going to Foundry Helix. Sure. That moves the counters over. We don't get to Proliferate, I don't think. Yeah, because it removed all legal targets. Hit them for 3. And now we either need a land to play this Extruder, or we need another creature. Opponent plays a land. Plays a Viashino Lashclaw. We untap. We draw Duskshell Crawler. Play the Crawler. We're going to have it counter up itself. Go to combat. Hit them for 3. Okay. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps Gargadon, 1 final counter on it. Opponent plays Road, which will do 5 damage when they flashback Ruin. They suspend another Rift Sower. Okay, we untap. We draw an Arcbound Prototype, which is a pretty good top deck here. Because this way, if they kill our other Arcbound creature, we have options. Hit them for 3. Okay, opponent goes to 10, we go to 30. They untap, Rift Sower ticks down to 1, Gargadon comes off Suspend. So they have a flashbackable removal spell, and 2 cards in hand. They play a land, which is a little bit merciful here. Okay, they kill the Mouser, we move the counters over. Don't really have a choice. And they don't attack. We untap, we draw Plains. Play Plains, and we're going to go ahead and capture that Gargadon. That lizard put a whole elephant in its mouth. Counters on our guys. Go to combat. Attack for 8. Opponent takes 8 and goes to 2. They untap. Rift Sower coming off Suspend. They draw a card. They play a land. They discard Revolutionist so that they can cheapen it up. They'll pick up Foundry Helix. But Foundry Helix does not kill any of our guys. So they have to use it when they block. We untap. We draw Break Ties. So Smell Fear. We'll have Arcbound Prototype fight down the Rift Sower. Alright, that's game. I don't think we want Flourishing Strike. We don't need Crack Open. I think we're set up just fine. Opponent did not have a lot of tap lands, so we don't need the gloves. Let's run it back. Alright, this is less than ideal, but it should still work. Opponent leads on Mountain. We draw Smell Fear, play Plains, pass the turn. They untap, play a Forest, play a Viashino Lashclaw. They draw Herd Baloth, play Prototype, pass the turn. My nose is super itchy all of a sudden. They play Plains, they attack us for 2, we do not block. Okay, we untap, we draw a Mouser, play a Forest, go to combat, attack for 2. If my opponent has a removal, we can skill and then use Smell Fear to fight their guy. If I play the Mouser, I lose access to Blacksmith skill, and if they have a kill spell, they can get rid of all of those counters. So I think the play here is to actually fight. If they do have instant speed removal, we will Blacksmith skill. Foundry Helix sacking a land. Well, enjoy the blowout. Pass the turn. That was sick. My opponent just vindicated themselves. Alright. We untap, draw a Prototype, play a Mouser, go to combat, attack for 3. Opponent casts Road. We're going to get a Mountain, because otherwise they're never going to be able to cast Ruin. So we hit them for 3, pass the turn, they go to 15. They play a land. Okay, Ruin is not an instant, thankfully. We draw a Forest, play a Forest, play a Prototype, just to make sure we can keep distributing the counters. Go to combat, attack for 4. They're going to basic land cycle battle plan, getting a Forest. Then they take 3, or 4. We gain 1, then pass the turn. Opponent Foundry Helixes to kill Prototype. Put it on the other Prototype. Pass the turn. They play a Mountain. They can now flashback Ruin to kill this Prototype. And if they have a Naturalize, we're screwed. The cool thing about that is, though, like, we still have the same power we started with. Like, my opponent casts 2 removal spells, and we're exactly where we started. Opponent untaps and draws. They play a land. They cast a Revolutionist, and that'll be game. They pick up a Foundry Helix and pass. We untap, draw Plains, play a Plains. Let's go ahead and arrest. And the game is over. Alright, well, disregarding Sword of Hearth and Home shenanigans, I think that that deck was actually really good. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. And remember, you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few times have been earlier than that. And, yeah, they're all wonderful human beings. Thank you so much for watching. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of June. If you want to have your name show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon down in the description below. Thank you all.